Hi guys, this is Baby Doll Soaps and Things. I am back with another video. This is going to be, excuse my French, but I named this Fantasmagorique Noire. And what this talks about black horror. But this is going to be broken up into segments because I have over 40 odd of the top best black horrors throughout the decades. I was really trying to push to do this around Halloween last year or Dia de Muertos. But, scheduling was just not sitting there with me. Work was kicking my ass. And I wanted to pick up from where I left off with my famous Vamp segment, which spoke about black women in horror. So I'm going to spend time talking about breaking racial stereotypes and shedding more light on blacks in horror. Many often inquire about the horror films that pertain to our community. Well, you know what? Most people have the impression, you heard that joke. Oh, if it's a black person, they the first to die in the scary movie. That was the running joke, but we debunked that horrendous myth. So, welcome to Fantasmagorique Noire. I took French in high school, but my French is leaving me. What does one think when they hear of black horror films? I'm pretty sure Jordan Peele's Get Out or Mom or even Us comes to mind. Maybe Nope. Get Out won an Oscar for Best Screenplay in 2017. Today's black horror films are now a part of the pop culture history thanks to their rather unique and grotesque story, with a blend of humor and shocks that send chills down your spine. Today's black horror films does not only just display screams, but they often reflect on the deep-rooted racism that is faced in America. Of course, Jordan Peele did it again in 2022 with Nope, which was expected to receive Oscar buzzes. Now we're going through a list of movies one could find on Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, and sit back because this is a long list. But as I stated, I'm going to break this video up into segments because it's over 40 odd movies and I'm not going through that today. This is going to be interesting. We will analyze their pros and cons and their significance. So what I'm going to start off with is we're going to go back to 1968, The Night of the Living Dead. The 1968 horror classic film, which was directed by George A. Romero, follows a group of 7 men who were trapped in a remote farmhouse that is under the attack of the undead zombies in a remote town somewhere in Maryland. Yep. Dwayne Jones was the lead actor and he was black. This film was very groundbreaking, and it pivoted in displaying a positive image of black men in a leading role that was not centered around his race. So even though he was black, the role did not center around him being black. The role centered around him being a man, taking initiative, protecting people from the zombies. And Dwayne Jones was a very underrated actor back in then. He ended up being in another movie that I'm going to talk about on this list too. It was the first time, I guess you would say, one of the few films in horror films where you saw a black man in the leading role, which was very pivotal. Second, we're going to go to 1972, Blackula. Blackula, of course, which I spoke about in Vamps, was about an African prince who traveled to Transylvania where he becomes a vampire bitten by Dracula. So Blackula, aka Prince Mamuwalde, and his wife Princess Luva traveled, I want to say, in the late 1780s to Transylvania to receive help from Count Dracula with, suppressing the slave trade, which was inhumane, debauched, and something Prince Mamuwalde did not support. However, Count Dracula decided not to help Prince Mamuwalde, decided to imprison his wife and bite him and seal him in a coffin for hundreds of years, only to be awakened in the 1970s. LA actor William Marshall made history by becoming the first black vampire to appear on screen with his role of Blackula, which was a name given to him by Count Dracula, replacing his name Prince Mamuwalde of the Abani tribe. Next is Alabama's Ghost, 1973. Frederick Hobbs' masterpiece comes to life as Alabama is the janitor at a nightclub. While he is cleaning up, he finds the personal effects of Carter the Great, a longtime dead magician who used to perform at the club. He begins using what he has found and soon becomes the magician known as Alabama, King of the Cosmos. But the novice magician's success is overshadowed by the fact that he was unwittingly unleashing the forces of voodoo, vampirism, and the mutilated ghost. Oh, gotta love voodoo. Gotta love the black arts. Gotta love that shit. Next is Blackenstein, of course, Frankenstein, black version. This was also in 1973. Known as Black Frankenstein, in its only theatrical release poster, and whose actual on-screen name is titled Blackenstein, the Black Frankenstein, is a 1973 American blaxploitation horror film directed by William A. Levy, starring John Hart, Ivory Stone, Andrea King, Roosevelt Jackson, Joe Dussault, Nick Bolin, and Liz Renee. It is based loosely on Mary Shelley's 1818 novel Frankenstein. Mary Shelley is the author of Frankenstein, the modern Prometheus. Excuse me, I cannot speak for a damn. This was released on August 3rd, 1973. This was released around the time hip-hop was born. It was made in an attempt to cash in on the success of Blackula, which was made the previous year by American International Picture. However, Blackenstein fared poorly in comparison to his predecessor, with most reviews agreeing that the film was a totally inept mixture of the worst horror and blaxploitation films. After being wounded in Vietnam, Eddie Turner is given a second chance at life by a DNA scientist who manages to reconstruct the wounded soldier's lost limbs. However, the results soon turn monstrous when a crazed lab assistant gives the resurrected veteran the wrong formula, causing havoc in the process. Which is where he came up with a square-ass head being larger than life, and just a monstrosity. Next, we have Ganja and Hess. Again, Dwayne Jones, who was starring in Night of the Living Dead 5 years prior. Now he's also starring again in this spellbinding indie film as Dr. Hess. Yep. As Dr. Hess Green. Hess was his former character in the Night of the Living Dead's assistant, in which he starred in 5 years earlier. See? As I stated. A doctor who was stabbed by his research assistant with a cursed African dagger. He also starred opposite with the Scream Queen. I called her Scream Queen. Excuse me. She is the Scream Queen, Marlene Clark. The wounds sustained from the dagger turned Hess into a vampire. Despite his new life, he could not help but fall in love with his, of course, beautiful Ganja Mita. His assistant's beautiful wife. And that is who Marlene Clark was. This also fast forwards to 2014 in Spike Lee's adaptation of The Sweet Blood of Jesus. Live and Let Die. While Live and Let Die, this was also in 1973. Live and Let Die was a James Bond film, but it had blaxploitation references. Because I've had some people come up to me when I was talking about that in one of my videos. It's not a blaxploitation film. Actually, it's not. It's a James Bond franchise film, but it does have blaxploitation references. It does. This is a spy film, and it is the 8th film in the James Bond series, produced by Ion Productions, and the first to star Roger Moore as the fictional MI6 agent James Bond. It was directed by Guy Hamilton and produced by Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, while Tom Mankiewicz wrote the script. Although the producers had approached Sean Connery to return after Diamonds Are Forever, he declined, and a search for a new actor led to Moore to be signed. This film is based on Sir Ian Fleming's 1954 novel of the same name. The storyline involves a Harlem drug lord, known as Mr. Big, who plans to distribute tons of heroin for free to put rival drug barons out of business, and then become a monopoly supplier. Mr. Big is revealed to be the alter ego of Dr. Kananga, a corrupt Caribbean dictator, played by the late Yafe Kotto, who rules a fictional Caribbean island by the name of San Monique. I guess San Monique is supposed to be like Haiti, where opium poppies are secretly farmed. Bond is investigating the deaths of 3 British agents, leading him to Kananga, and he is soon trapped in a world of gangsters and voodoo. As he fights to put a stop to the drug baron scheme, Live and Let Die was released during the height of the blaxploitation era. Yep. And many blaxploitation archetypes and cliches are depicted in this film. As I stated, it's not a blaxploitation film, but it had a lot of blaxploitation references, including derogatory racial epithets like honky, black gangsters, and pimp mobiles. It departs from the former plots of the James Bond films about megalomaniac supervillains and instead focuses on drug trafficking, a common theme of blaxploitation films of this period. It is set in African American cultural centers such as Harlem and New Orleans, as well as the Caribbean islands. It was also the first James Bond film to feature an African American Bond girl romantically involved with 007, Rosie Carver, who was portrayed by Gloria Hendry. And of course, we're going back to Scream, Blackula Scream, 1973. Another blaxploitation hit, as it was the sequel to Blackula. Too bad Blackula did not become some type of trilogy or quartet for real. This showed the acting debut of Richard Lawson. For those who don't know, he is Beyonce's estranged stepfather and daughter of the ageless actress Bianca Lawson. The dying voodoo queen Mama Loa chooses to adopt apprentice Lisa Fortier, who is portrayed by my favorite Gemini, Pam Grier. If you don't know Pam Grier, you would know Pam Grier because of those. Foxy Brown, Jackie Brown, all of those movies. As her successor, leaving her arrogant son, Willis, portrayed by Lawson, angry and vengeful. Willis buys the bones of Prince Mamawalde, also known as the Black Vampire, Blackula, former shaman of the voodoo cult, and uses voodoo power to resurrect the vampire to do his bidding. While this does bring While this does bring Blackula back to life, he bites Willis upon awakening. Now Willis finds himself in a curse of his own doing, made into a hungering vampire for blood, and a slave to the very creature he sought to control. And then, I said 1973 had a lot of good movies. I'm actually pissed off that Blackula didn't have a third or a fourth because it was so good. Now, mind you, Blackula Scream was not produced by the same producer. But I happen to like this one, but it pissed me off because it was the second and last one. And they didn't make a third or fourth. So it's like you sit and wondering like what the hell could it have been? Right, it could have been amazing. So now we're going to go into the year 1974. Abby, the first of 1974, also known as the Black Exorcist, fixated around a marriage counselor by the name of Abby Williams, portrayed by the late Carol Speed, who became possessed by a Yoruba sex spirit, or Orisha, by the name of Ishu. I think in many of my videos, as you see with my dolls, how they have a bracelet similar to me with the Orishas. I've mentioned that, made some cross references to them. The guardian of the whirlwinds and chaos when her father-in-law, who is a priest, and her father-in-law is played by Blackula, William Marshall, an architect, accidentally frees it on an excursion in Africa. Abby scared the shit out of me. I didn't see Abby until I read about it. She became possessed by this sex demon and was graping men and was vomiting, her eyes rolling in the back of her head. It scared the shit out of me so damn bad. I remember watching it one night and I went to bed. And let's say an hour or two after I went to bed, I fell off the bed. My mom's like, "What the hell?" I told her I fell. "You what?" I told her I fell. I have heard negative effects of that movie that spiritually it affected cast members, where things were happening around them, like the set was cursed. That was a rumor I heard, but it could be true because hell, I fell off the damn bed after watching it. And of course, what I love, one of my favorite movies from 1974, Sugar Hill. Sugar Hill, which is a film from the 1970s blaxploitation era. Sugar Hill, aka Diana Hill, that's the character's name. She goes by Sugar Hill, but it's Diana Hill. It follows a depressed, ridden widow who seeks the help of a voodoo priestess. to avenge the murder of her husband. Her husband owned a club called Club Haiti, and he was in some deals with some, shoddy businessmen that wanted his business, and they killed him. So Diana, who helped own the club along with her husband, wanted to seek revenge, and she sought revenge from an old voodoo queen by the name of Mama Matrice. Mama Matrice was portrayed by, I believe the actress name is Zara Cully. And if you know, Zara Cully portrayed Mother Jefferson on The Jeffersons. She was George's mother. Little short, cute, sassy, adorable lady. That's who portrayed Mama Matrice. And what Diana does is she summons a voodoo lord by the name of Baron Samedi to do her evil bidding, to avenge her lover and her by killing everybody that was responsible for her husband's death. Marky Bay stars as Diana, aka Sugar Hill. Richard Lawson actually was the detective, her ex-boyfriend, who was investigating these weird voodoo murders. Love it. Another movie from 1974 was The House on Skull Mountain. Skull Mountain was in 1974. It's a horror film directed by Ron Honthner. After Pauline Christophe, Mary J. Todd Mackenzie, the sole heir of the mansion on Skull Mountain, dies, 4 of her family members are called to hear upon her will. Upon arrival, each of the guests are stalked by a skeleton in a robe. Elderly Pauline Christophe, who is a descendant of Haitian revolutionist Henri Christophe, dies in her home on Skull Mountain. 2 days later, her 4 relatives arrive for the funeral and the reading of the will. Philippe, Lorena, Dr. Andrew Cunningham, and Harriet Johnson. Pauline, as well as her butler Thomas and maid Louette, were avid practitioners of voodoo, and the funeral proceedings are plagued by various voodoo-related phenomena, mysterious deaths, and a lot of evil. I love that movie. That movie was cool. That movie was cool. So, I'm going to talk about other stuff. 1975. We're going to talk about Lord Shango. Lord Shango was another blaxploitation film and starred Marlene Clark, who was the Scream Queen. Lord Shango explores religion and the afterlife, spiritual deities, and love. Marlene Clark and her daughter are at odds. It's kind of a messed up movie. The daughter lost her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was drowned to death in a baptism. He was always against Christian religion. He considered it slave religion. And you know how black folks are in their community, adamant about Christianity. They defend that more than anything, so he was drowned to death. So, he practiced Ifa, which is African spirituality, and sacrificed and prayed to a deity named Shango. Shango is an actual deity. And a lot of phenomena and voodoo and occult surrounded behind this movie. It was cool. Wow, Lord Shango, yeah. Now we're gonna go into 1976. Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, 1976, a blaxploitation horror film loosely inspired by the 1886 novella Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. This film stars Bernie Casey and Rosalind Cash and was directed by William Crane. Along with Crane, it was written by Larry LeBron and Lawrence Woolner, and the cinematography by Tak Fujimoto. It was filmed primarily in Los Angeles at locations such as the Watts Tower. In Los Angeles, Dr. Henry Pry, Bernie Casey, is an accomplished and wealthy African American medical doctor working on a cure for cirrhosis of the liver. Yeah. Along with his colleagues, Dr. Billy Worth, which is Rosalind Cash, and I think that was his girlfriend in the movie. Desperate to create this remedy, Pry conducts unethical experiments on others and himself, which turns him into a white-skinned Frankensteinian monster with superhuman strength and invincibility. Pry begins a spree throughout Watts, killing prostitutes and pimps. After not being able to test his remedy on Linda, Maria Henry, he continues his rampage, which results in him being chased down by the police. Cornered at the Watts Tower, he attempts to escape by climbing up to the tower, which leads to the police gunning him down and causing him to fall to his death. I think that movie was stupid. Him walking around looking like Yeti, a White Hulk was creepy. He didn't even look scary. He looked like someone that, not that I don't want to be insensitive, but he looked like someone that had albinism. I didn't care for it. It just looked stupid. And of course, there's JD's Revenge. JD's Revenge, 1976. This blaxploitation film from 1976 tells the grisly and ghostly story of a man possessed by the spirit of the 1940s era hustler, Isaac Ike Kendricks, which was portrayed by Glenn Turman, a law student, takes on a spirit of the long dead J.D. Walker, David McKnight, after being hypnotized during a night out with his girlfriend and friends. J.D. uses Ike's body to carry out revenge on a man he could not get while living. J.D.'s Revenge was interesting. It was an interesting movie. I'll do two more. We're going to go to 1986, my year. Vamp 1986 is a 1986 American black comedian horror film directed by Richard Wank, co-written by Wank and Donald P. Borchers, and starring Grace Jones and Chris Makepeace. Now, a lot of these movies I talked in my Vamps in my Vamps segment back in 23. So, yep, I'm revisiting this. In the film, 3 college students visit a strip club with the intentions of hiring a stripper for a college fraternity. The stripper who impresses them turns out to be a powerful vampire, as do many of the other inhabitants of the part of the town they find themselves in, and their carefree visit to the club turns into a struggle of survival. That was when Grace Jones came out with the blue eyes and the red contacts and the white skin, which she got a lot of flack for because many people accused her of telling black women that they're only beautiful with European aesthetics. And I don't think that was the case. I think she was a vampire, but you know, people tend to take a lot of things out of context. Of course, 1990, Death by Temptation. And we'll stop here. This will be the last movie I talk about. This is movie 15. I've gone through 15 movies here. So this will conclude part 1 after Death by Temptation. That movie scared the shit out of me. Death by Temptation, an early 90s film produced, written, and directed by James Bond III. If you don't know James Bond III, he played the little ant in School Days, 1988. An evil succubus is preying on the libidinous black man in New York City. And all that stands in her way is a minister in training, an aspiring actor, and a cop who is familiarized and trained in cases involving the supernatural. This film takes place in New York City, 1990, starring Cynthia Bond, James Bond III, Kadeem Harrison, Samuel L. Jackson, and Bill Nunn. So pretty much it's a succubus that has sex with men, and she kills them. That's what she does. It was scary as shit. It was gory as shit. That gave me a nightmare. That actually is a great reference. Be careful who you lay with. Be careful who you sleep with. Well, that concludes part 1. So, thank you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Baby Doll Soaps and Things signing off.